Let's be honest, the US federal budget is a total mess of numbers that don't make any sense to most of us. So to try and figure this out, let's turn it into a person I like to call my uncle.
All right, so meet Uncle Federson. He makes a really good living, but he has a tiny little problem. He spends money like it's going out of style. And here's a spoiler alert. The credit card company is starting to notice.
So get this. Last year, Uncle Federson's income was a whopping $5.2 trillion. That is an absolutely insane amount of money. You'd think he'd be set for life, right? Well, not exactly.
Yeah, here's where it gets crazy. Even with all that cash coming in, he somehow, someway, managed to spend $7 trillion. That's a gap of almost $1.8 trillion that he has to put on the credit card every single year.
So just how fast is that credit card balance growing? Try $6 billion a day. That's over $250 million an hour. That's about $4 million a minute. Seriously, in the few seconds it took me to say that, he just went a couple $1,000,000 deeper into debt. It's mind-boggling. Okay, so these numbers, trillions, billions, they're so huge, they're basically meaningless, right? It's just noise. So let's shrink this whole mess down to a scale that we can actually wrap our heads around. Let's think of it like a normal, everyday household budget. So if Uncle Federson's budget was your budget, it'd be like you making $52,000 a year but spending $70,000. And you'd be doing that while you're already carrying a credit card balance of over $376,000. Come on, that's not a budget. This is a full-blown financial meltdown.
And if you think that's bad, here's the real gut punch. For the first time ever, the annual interest payment alone on that massive credit card debt has hit nearly $1 trillion. We're not even talking about paying down the debt itself. That's just the fee for borrowing so much.
This is where it just gets completely wild. That $1 trillion in interest, it means we are now spending more money just paying interest on our old debt than we spend on our entire national defense. Just let that sink in. That's $1 trillion a year that we can't spend on roads or science or healthcare. It's just gone. Poof. Paying for stuff we already bought.
So to really get how Uncle Federson dug himself into this hole, we've got to follow the money. Where in the world is every single one of his dollars actually going?
And this chart pretty much tells the entire story. Just look at it. For every dollar he spends, nearly a quarter of it, 23 cents, goes straight to Social Security. Another 24 cents goes to Medicare and Medicaid. Then you tack on 13 cents for defense and a jaw-dropping 14 cents just for interest payments. That means almost 3/4 of his entire budget is already spoken for, before we even get to talk about anything else.
All right, so whenever this conversation comes up, you always hear one thing, right? Just tax the rich. Problem solved. It sounds super simple, but let's actually run the numbers on that one. This quote just nails the problem perfectly. It's like robbing a museum to pay your rent. Sure, it might work this month, but guess what? The rent is due again next month, and the museum wall is still empty. It's a one-time trick.
Okay, let's look at the actual math. If you could magically take every single dollar from every billionaire in the United States, you'd end up with about $5.5 trillion. Now, since the yearly deficit is almost $2 trillion, that pile of cash would only cover the overspending for maybe 3 years. And then what? You're right back where you started, because you never fixed the spending problem.
And this gets to a really fundamental economic idea called the Laffer curve. The basic gist is this. Think of it like a sweet spot. If tax rates are zero, the government gets, zero revenue. But if you jack tax rates up to 100%, people either stop working or hide their money, and the government also gets zero. You have to find that Goldilocks zone in the middle, because if you go too high, your total revenue can actually go down. So if the so-called easy fixes don't actually fix anything, what's left? Well, this is where we have to have what I call the grown-up conversation. There are no magic wands here, just a bunch of really difficult choices.
Any real solution is probably going to involve a painful combination of these 4 things. First, you've got to reform the big guys, Social Security and Medicare, to make sure they're still there for the next generation. Second, a real hunt for waste and fraud, not just symbolic cuts. Third, you need policies that encourage the economy to grow faster than the debt. And finally, you have to close those complicated tax loopholes the super rich use, but do it without killing the investment we need for jobs. None of that is easy.
At the end of the day, it all boils down to this one simple fundamental truth. It's something they teach you in Finance 101, and it's the heart of Uncle Federson's problem. You simply cannot borrow your way to prosperity. It just doesn't work.
Which brings us right back to our uncle. He needs a budget, he needs to get serious, and more than anything, he needs to stop pretending that this massive credit card bill is somebody else's problem to deal with later. So the real question is, what are we, the family, going to tell him to do?